All right, good afternoon, everybody. My grandpa and I are on another road trip. Tell them where we are and tell them where we're going.
We're in Barstow and we're heading for Flagstaff, Arizona.
Yep. So this is going to be our last road trip of the year, and this is also going to be our biggest road trip of the year. So we're actually going to be heading towards Colorado and the Four Corner states. But today we're just driving from our home in California out to Flagstaff, Arizona. The first day is always the longest day of driving, and we're about halfway done here as we're in Barstow, California, and we got about 5-6 more hours of driving to go. And there's not much that we're going to stop and see, but we'll see you guys down the road, and this road trip is just beginning, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of it. After leaving Interstate 15, we immediately hopped onto Interstate 40, which we followed all the way to Flagstaff, Arizona. We even checked out the mileage sign there that gives the distance to I-40's eastern end there in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is over 2,500 miles away. It was a pretty uneventful drive there along Interstate 40 in California, and I even released a video of the entire drive along Interstate 40 in California earlier this year if you want to check it out here on my channel. We basically drove all the way out to Needles, California without stopping for anything. Man, there sure is a whole lot of nothing out here on I-40 in California in the middle of the Mojave Desert, huh?
Yeah, pretty much sagebrush and sand. Hardly any trees. You don't see hardly any trees. Call them trees, they look like more like shrubs, but who knows? Pretty dry out here.
Yep. All right, Grandpa, where are we right now?
Well, we're in wonderful Needles, California.
Yep, home to some of the highest gas prices in the United States. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is.
It's charging about $6 a gallon here in Needles, California. As you can see at this mobile station right here, and then right next door, they're basically charging the same price there at Shell. Would you pay these prices?
No. Sorry.
So we're actually going to show you how to save money on gas here by just going across the Colorado River into Arizona, where you can literally save $3 a gallon.
That's right.
You ready to go pay way less for gas?
Yeah, let's do it.
I recorded this time lapse here as we basically drove from these high gas prices here in Needles, California, and then we eventually made our way across town and into Arizona, where we paid much cheaper prices for gas. As I'm sure you guys are aware, gas prices have been a lot higher in the United States these last several years here, and I'm sure you guys will debate why that is in the comments below. I just ask that you please keep it civil. But here you can just save so much more money by just driving 5 extra minutes here across Needles and across the Colorado River and into Arizona. As we cross this bridge here over the Colorado River, you can immediately see the first gas station coming up on our right is like $2 cheaper than in Needles. And then if you just keep driving past this gas station and drive another 2 minutes down the road, you'll save another $1 per gallon. So basically you're going to end up paying half the prices that you would normally pay there in Needles. And if you just keep driving past this gas station right here, you'll eventually end up at this Indian themed gas station, which I believe is actually owned by the local Native Americans that live in the area, and hence why it's so cheap. But yeah, this gas station right here is just so much more worth driving that 5 extra minutes just to save so much more money on gas. Like I said, you literally pay half the prices than in Needles here at this gas station. I'll be honest, I haven't paid under $3 a gallon for gas since 2021, and it was just really nice to see 2 at the very beginning of this price here at this station. Let me tell you folks, I don't take that for granted being a Californian. Those gas prices are more like it, aren't they?
Yeah, that's where it should be right now in California, but guess what? It isn't.
When's the last time you paid under $3 a gallon for gas? Outside of the COVID years.
I don't know. I can't remember, to tell you the truth.
Pretty ridiculous, isn't it?
It's a crime is what it is in this state. You know, it's just, it shouldn't be that way, but it just is. They just tax us to death on fuel. So
luckily, we don't have to worry about that for the next 7 days.
No, that's true. At least save money on gas on this trip.
Yep. All right, we will see you guys further down the road. Too bad you guys can't feel the temperature through the computer screen right now, but it is 110 degrees here in Needles, California at the end of September, which is really hot for this time of the year, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is very warm. It's not unusual. September can be a hot month, but it's really hot here today.
Yeah, especially because October is literally just a few days away. So.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't know. Yeah,
but it is dry heat though, so I mean it could be worse.
Yeah, at least there's no humidity.
Yeah.
Welcome Welcome to Arizona, the Grand Canyon state.
The first of many states that we'll visit on this trip.
That's right.
And the only reason we're doing this here instead of I-40 is because there's nowhere really to pull over on I-40 for the sign, so we're doing it right here.
Yeah, this is a nice sign. I really like this.
So my grandpa and I are stuck in traffic here at the California-Arizona border at the Colorado River here on I-40. We're not sure what's going on down the road, but it looks like we have to take a change of plans here because we were originally going to stay on I-40 all the way to Flagstaff, but it looks like with this traffic here, as you can see, that we're stuck in, we might have to pivot and drive old Route 66 across the Black Mountains over to Kingman, so...
Yeah, that'll be an interesting drive, I guess, if we can ever get off this mess here.
Yeah. Traffic is definitely not moving right now. We are stuck here. And as you can see, it is pretty gnarly looking up ahead on the map there.
As soon as we got to the first exit here in Arizona, we quickly got off I-40 and begun our journey here on Old Route 66 here in Arizona. It's funny, I've always wanted to drive this section of Route 66 in Arizona because it's arguably the most scenic stretch of all of Route 66 once you cross the Black Mountains there between Kingman and the California state line, but I just never had the chance to do it until now because of the traffic situation, so this was a nice little blessing in disguise, if you know what I mean. The scenery didn't really change that much on the first few miles of Old Route 66 here in Arizona, as we were mostly just passing through the greater Mojave Valley region, which is, believe it or not, is home to almost 100,000 people in this tri-state area here of southern Nevada, northwestern Arizona, and southeastern California. The route was pretty straight and flat for the first few miles, but once we started getting closer to the Black Mountains, then this route really started to become a lot more narrow and a lot more twisty and just a very narrow winding road as we began our journey up into the Black Mountains. This section of Route 66 was one of the most treacherous sections of Route 66 because it just had so many twists and turns and steep grades as it passed through the Black Mountains, and believe it or not, this was definitely the most dangerous section of the route as well, and had the highest fatality rate of the entire drive along Route 66 between California and Illinois. This section of Route 66 across the Black Mountains was in service from when the route was originally built in the 1920s up until the 1950s, when a bypass of the Black Mountains was opened, which eventually would become Interstate 40 during the 1960s and 1970s. One thing to look out for as you approach the historic mining town of Oatman, Arizona, is the wild burros that are ever present here along this old stretch of Route 66. It is quite amazing to see how many burros just hang out here on the side of the road, and then of course in the mining town of Oatman, Arizona as well. They are pretty famous and have become pretty popular landmarks here along the old Route 66 here as it passes through the Black Mountains. It's just really cool because they seem so friendly and tame, and they'll just stand right out there in the middle of the road, so be sure to be on the lookout as you're passing through this area because they'll probably just stand there without even really caring that you're even there in the first place. The burros definitely outnumber the amount of people that are here in the Black Mountains, especially here in the old historic mining town of Oatman, Arizona. And the main reason that they keep coming to this area here is because people feed them. And it's just really cool to see these burros just walking here through the historic downtown area of Oatman, Arizona. It's definitely a nice highlight when you're passing through this area, that's for sure. I really wish my grandpa and I had more time to spend around this area right here, and we're actually planning on potentially doing a big Route 66 trip here in the future because its 100-year anniversary is coming up in 2026. So I'd love to return to this area and spend a lot more time here and just maybe hang out with some of the burros. So be sure to be on the lookout for that potentially in a few years here, and just let me know what you think of that potential trip here in the comments. The desert scenery here is just really amazing here on this stretch of old Route 66 as it passes through the Black Mountains. Honestly, this is hands down one of the most scenic stretches of Route 66, and I can definitely see after driving this road here in 2024 why this route was ultimately bypassed in the 1950s in favor of the route that eventually became part of Interstate 40, because I could not see any major large vehicles passing through here by the time the interstate system was being drawn up, and vehicles were much larger, and then this was definitely the most dangerous section of Route 66, that is for sure. And unfortunately, the route has definitely seen better days here in 2024, so I hope that Arizona will get to paving this soon, because Arizona seems to have a reputation of having some pretty rough roads around this area of the state. After driving historic Route 66 over the Black Mountains, my grandpa and I made our way back over towards Interstate 40, which we basically followed from there up to Kingman, where we got our last food for the day, and then we just basically drove all the way to Flagstaff to end our very long first day here on our Southwest/Colorado road trip.
Alright, so my grandpa and I just got done driving historic Route 66 over the Black Mountains here in Arizona, also passing through the historic mining town of Oatman. And what a drive, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly, really, at least through the mountainous area.
Do you see why I-40 bypassed Route 66 through these mountains?
Oh, absolutely. It's very, very, very dangerous. It could be very dangerous. You really have to watch your speed.
Yeah, so I believe this was actually the most dangerous section of old Route 66 from Chicago to LA back in the day, of course, when the road was in its heyday.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
And it was really cool seeing all the wild burros along the side of the road, wasn't it?
Oh, we saw a lot of burros. I bet we probably saw, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 of burros all the way down the highway and then or the road, and then in town, also in the town.
Yeah, so if you ever come to the Oatman, Arizona area, that's pretty much what they're known for. Of course, it's an old mining town, but the wild burros are really the stars of the town, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they are. They're real friendly. People feed them. They just stand right in the middle of the highway, so you got to be careful. You know, they don't move. You know, you have to go around them. But it was fun, actually.
After leaving Kingman, it was about a 2-hour drive to Flagstaff, Arizona, and we didn't stop for anything because we were very tired at this point, and we drove well over 500 miles, and we were just ready to get to our hotel and crash for the evening. The scenery along I-40 in Arizona as you drive from Kingman up to Flagstaff is really amazing because you just really get to see how I-40 climbs up in elevation and basically transitions from the Mojave Desert around Kingman up towards the Colorado Plateau and the Ponderosa Pine Forest around Flagstaff. You gain well over a mile in elevation by the time you get to Flagstaff, Arizona from when you first enter Arizona along I-40. After well over 700 miles and 12 hours of driving, we finally arrived in Flagstaff just around sunset, and that was going to conclude our first day here on our Southwest and Colorado road trip.
All right, good morning, everybody. My grandpa and I are here in Flagstaff, Arizona. It is day number 2 here on our Southwest road trip, and guess where we're going today?
Well, we're heading for the Four Corners region of the United States.
Yep. So today our itinerary is to visit Monument Valley, the Mexican Hat region in Utah, including the Goosenecks State Park, and then of course the actual Four Corners Monument, and just see a lot of things in the Four Corners region of the United States. I've seen a few of the things, but my grandpa has seen absolutely nothing that we're about to see today for the first time, so I'm really excited to see his genuine reaction to all the things that we're going to be seeing today.
Yeah, it should be fun. Like I said, I've never been there to those areas, so it'll be interesting to see it.
Yep.
After leaving Flagstaff, my grandpa and I headed north along US Route 89. We passed through the mountains around Flagstaff as we headed north, and then we even passed by Humphreys Peak, which is the highest point in Arizona, and then just as we reached our apex there in the San Francisco Peaks, we began to gradually lose elevation as we kept heading north until we met the Little Colorado River near the town of Cameron. Our first stop of the day was at the Cameron Suspension Bridge, which originally opened in 1911 and was in operation until 1959, when a new bridge was built just to the right of the old bridge as US 89 was expanded in the area. The Cameron Suspension Bridge is not drivable anymore, but it's still a nice relic here along US 89 from days gone by, and it was even added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1986. Believe it or not, the Cameron Suspension Bridge here in Arizona is the oldest suspension bridge in Arizona. They have it fenced off here so you can't even walk on it anymore, but it's still really nice to look at it here from the sides here at this turnout off US Route 89 across the Little Colorado River. All right, so my grandpa and I are here at the Cameron Suspension Bridge here that crosses the Little Colorado River, which is a historic bridge that was built in 1911 and used to carry US Route 89 across the Little Colorado River. Of course, this bridge was closed in 1959, and then you can see the modern bridge right behind it over there, which modern US 89 crosses the Little Colorado River, but it's still cool that this old historic bridge is still standing, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's a pretty interesting bridge. It's pretty, it's a marvel, actually. It's pretty, the way it was constructed. It's impressive.
Yeah. And we actually found something that's older than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Cameron Suspension Bridge has a total length of 680 feet and a main span of 660 feet. The bridge was built by the Midland Bridge Company of Kansas City for the Office of Indian Affairs and the Indian Irrigation Service. As awesome as the views of the bridge are here, the views of the Little Colorado River and the Little Colorado River Canyon here are just as amazing. After leaving behind the Cameron Suspension Bridge, we drove north along US 89 for a few more miles until we came to the junction with US Route 160, and then we turned right onto US 160 and eventually made our way over to the town of Tuba City, which is the largest city by population on the Navajo Reservation. My grandpa and I filled up on gas here and then eventually got some lunch, and then we continued our journey here along US 160 all the way to the town of Kayenta, Arizona, where we met up with US Route 163. It took us roughly 1 hour to drive from Tuba City out towards the town of Kayenta, where we met up with US Route 163, and the drive was pretty scenic the entire way there. The Four Corners region is one of the most beautiful regions of the United States.
All right, so my grandpa and I have made it to Kayenta, Arizona, which is just outside of Monument Valley, and me and him are getting ready to go to Monument Valley for the first time together. I've personally never been to Monument Valley. I was very close to it when I was passing through the area in 2020, but I decided not to go through it, so I'm making up for it this time around. And I know you've never been to Monument Valley either.
No, I've never been there either. It's been interesting to see it.
All right, so you ready to go see Monument Valley for the first time together?
Yeah, let's go check it out.
All right, let's go.
We then headed north along US Route 163 towards Monument Valley, and right as we were approaching Monument Valley, the scenery got absolutely breathtaking. Monument Valley is somewhere I've always wanted to visit, and I was very close to visiting it on my trip here in this area in 2020, but I decided to skip it in favor of seeing the Four Corners, which was unfortunately closed when I passed through the area in 2020. So to make up for it this time, I decided to check out Monument Valley, and my grandpa was with me this time, so we're both seeing something for the first time together, and that is pretty special. Our first order of business when we got to Monument Valley was to take a picture and check out the Utah welcome sign here at Monument Valley. In my personal opinion, Utah has the best set of welcome signs in the entire country, and they have a different welcome sign depending on where you enter the state from.
Welcome to Utah.
And what are your thoughts on this sign?
Well, I like the sign, except for all the stickers on it, but it's a nice sign. That's Lake Powell right there.
Yep.
And it's nice.
Yeah, I think Utah has the best collection of welcome signs in the entire country, in my personal opinion. And then, of course, you have awesome scenery right behind my grandpa right here with Monument Valley. So what an awesome way to enter Utah, if I don't say so myself.
Yeah, it's really, really gorgeous here.
Monument Valley is one of the most famous and iconic places in the American Southwest and has been featured in numerous Western films over the years. It is located in both Utah and Arizona, and it's easily one of the main highlights here in the Four Corners region. Many of the buttes here in Monument Valley are sandstone buttes and rise as much as 1,000 feet above the valley floor, and when you enter Utah here along US Route 163, there is a sign that says San Juan County is the world's best outdoor museum, and it's really hard to argue that when you pass through Monument Valley here on US Route 163. It is important to note that the entirety of Monument Valley is located on the Navajo Reservation, and many of the places that require fees here in Monument Valley are directly controlled by the Navajo Nation itself. There is no fee required to drive through Monument Valley here on US Route 163, however.
All right, so my grandpa and I just drove through the heart of Monument Valley there near the Arizona-Utah border along US 163, and what did you think of what you just saw and what you see right behind you over here?
Oh, it's a fantastic place. I didn't realize it was here. It's really, really neat. There's some fantastic formations right here in this one section right here. I don't know, it's breathtaking.
Yeah, it's really hard to put into words. You really have to see it in person to kind of experience what we're talking about here, but it is just awesome. Like, I've always wanted to come here. This is very high on my road trip bucket list, and I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad I'm here with you.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Here we got to see a good example of plateau right out here behind us over here with all those columns back there. It's really fantastic.
Yep.
Monument Valley has attracted photographers for generations and is a great spot for photography and for capturing iconic landscapes found here in the American Southwest. It is very common to find people here standing in the middle of the road to get these iconic shots of the road heading back towards Monument Valley from Forrest Gump Hill. So be sure to watch out for people standing in the middle of the road when you pass through Monument Valley. There are a number of scenic pullouts that you can pull out though to get iconic shots of the buttes looking back towards Monument Valley. Visiting Monument Valley has always been very high on my bucket list, and it's one of the most iconic road trip destinations for many people here in the United States. The area is very remote, however, so be sure you come prepared when you visit Monument Valley.
All right, so my grandpa and I just got done here in Monument Valley. So what are your overall thoughts here of Monument Valley? Did it live up to the expectations and hype?
Yeah, it did really. I had never seen it before other than pictures, but to see it in person is pretty awesome. Yeah, it's a neat. I can't even fathom, the formations, how they were formed and everything. But it's pretty cool.
All right, so up next on our adventure here in the Four Corners region, we are heading north towards Mexican Hat, Utah to view,
Mexican Hat.
The Mexican Hat, yeah. And then right after that, we'll be heading to the goosenecks. So, yeah, we'll be doing a lot of stuff here in the Four Corners for the rest of the day. And
goosenecks, good, whack, 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 whack.
After leaving Monument Valley, my grandpa and I headed north along US Route 163 as we approached the town of Mexican Hat, Utah, where we crossed the San Juan River. Mexican Hat, Utah is named after a rock formation that's also called Mexican Hat and is located just a few miles north of the town itself. After passing through the town of Mexican Hat, we made our way a few miles north of town to check out the Mexican Hat rock formation itself. There is a dirt road that takes you directly to the rock formation there off US Route 163. The name Mexican Hat comes from a sombrero-shaped rock that is roughly 60 feet wide and 12 feet tall and resembles a sombrero, hence why it's called Mexican Hat. This is just one of many unique rock formations that's found here in the Colorado Plateau region of the Four Corners region of the United States.
Well, can you see where the town of Mexican Hat, Utah gets its name from?
Yeah, I sure can. Right up there is the Mexican Hat.
Yep. Pretty cool rock formation, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's amazing how that big circular hat up there can stay on top of that little column underneath it.
Yep.
But it's probably been there for a million years.
I swear, this can only be found in places like Utah and the Colorado Plateau.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. The state of Utah itself has some really fantastic rock formations. The Arches Park is another place to visit that's really cool.
Yep. As well as Bryce Canyon and Zion and all of the national parks, really.
Yeah, Utah's got a melting pot of really neat places to go and see.
Yep. And speaking of really neat places to go and see, are you ready to go check out our next one here in Utah, which is the goosenecks?
Yeah, let's go see the goosenecks, whatever that is, the river, yeah.
Yep.
After leaving the Mexican Hat rock formation, my grandpa and I drove about 5 minutes to Gooseneck State Park and briefly passed through Bears Ears National Monument as well. Gooseneck State Park is only $5 to enter the park, and it's definitely worth the price of admission for the views that you're going to get of the San Juan River as it meanders through this jaw-dropping landscape. Gooseneck State Park was established in 1962 and gets roughly 55,000 visitors per year, which is a shame because I believe this is one of the best state parks that I've ever been to. The way the San Juan River passes through these canyons and creates these numerous horseshoe bends here is absolutely amazing. These canyons were eroded by water, wind, frost, and gravity, and reach depths of up to 1,000 feet. If you look out in the distance from here, you can even see Monument Valley in the distance. There is a more famous horseshoe bend along the Colorado River that is more well known and gets a lot more attention, but these are just absolutely amazing and get far less visitors, so you have more time to enjoy this place more to yourself versus going to the horseshoe bend there along the Colorado River. The San Juan River here is a tributary of the Colorado River and is the second longest tributary of the Colorado River after the Green River farther up in Utah. The San Juan River is also one of the muddiest rivers in the United States.
Man, nature is stunning and powerful at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. If you look out there, you can see the levels. The top is where the actual canyon, where the canyon got started up there, and each one of those levels right there is a form where the water was cutting the canyon all the way down to the bottom to where it is now. And this is probably taken over eons of time to do that.
After leaving Goosenecks State Park, it was roughly an hour-and-a-half drive to the Four Corners, which was our next destination. We passed by some incredible scenery here as we passed through San Juan County here in Utah, and eventually made our way over to where the Four Corners Monument was. As we approached the Four Corners Monument, we were greeted by this awesome New Mexico welcome sign here.
Welcome to New Mexico, the land of enchantment.
So this is actually your first time in New Mexico in 16 years, believe it or not. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been. I just haven't had the desire to come back here, but we're on this road trip, so we're here.
Yep. And what do you think of the welcome sign here with the chilies and everything?
Yeah, I like it. I like the sign. I don't like all the stickers, but that's all right. People like to advertise.
Yep, it's better than another sign that's nearby the Four Corners, if you know what I mean. We'll talk about that in just a minute, though, when we get to it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, you ready to go to the Four Corners?
Yeah, let's do it.
We eventually made our way over to New Mexico State Route 597, which connects you to the Four Corners Monument. The Four Corners Monument is owned and operated by the Navajo Nation and is the only point in the United States where 4 states meet at a quadrupoint here in the southwestern United States. The states of Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah all meet here at the Four Corners Monument, and you can even stand at all 4 states at one time. There is truly no other place like it here in the United States, and my grandpa and I sure enjoyed our time here.
All right, Grandpa, tell the people what you're about to do.
I'm going to look like a dog here in about a second. I'm going to be in 4 states with my hands and my feet, thanks to my grandson here.
All right. Go ahead and do it.
All right, go ahead.
My grandpa is officially in 4 states at once. How do you feel?
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, I've tried.
See if I can get up now.
Woo!
After visiting the Four Corners Monument, we made our way back over to US 160 and then entered our 4th state for the trip, Colorado.
Welcome to colorful Colorado.
That sign sure isn't very colorful, though, is it?
No, I think that's the ugliest sign in the country right there. Colorado has so much to offer in the state as far as tourism and seeing things. They could do a lot better than this old ugly sign right here.
Yeah, so I used to actually like the sign when I was younger, but the older I got and the more I reevaluated it, the more I realized this is definitely one of the worst welcome signs in the entire country. I mean, even bordering states like Kansas and Nebraska have more colorful and more welcoming signs than Colorado, and that says a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a lot of the states that we've been in have beautiful signs now showing different areas in their state of different places. And they could do the same thing, but they choose to stay with this monster. I just don't like it.
Yep, I don't like it either. It's definitely one of my least favorite welcome signs in the entire country. Colorado DOT, if you're seeing this video, please consider changing the sign to something more colorful and less ironic, please.
After leaving the Four Corners region, we made our way back east along US Route 160 for roughly 20 miles until we reached US 491, formerly known as US Route 666, also known as the Devil's Highway. Prior to 2003, this road was known as US Route 666, and many believe the highway to be forever cursed because of that moniker, and has been the subject of many conspiracy theories, as well as having a high fatality rate due to the number of accidents along this road over the years. We were only on this route for about 5 miles before we re-entered New Mexico, and that's where we were going to be spending the rest of our day here on day 2 of our trip here in the American Southwest as we made our way to Farmington for our hotel for the evening.
All right, so my grandpa and I are re-entering New Mexico here along US Route 491, formerly known as US 666, aka the Devil's Highway. But this is the brand new New Mexico welcome sign that I believe they started installing in the late 2010s. Obviously, we saw the other version of this sign over there by the Four Corners Monument where they have the Chili's version, but this is like the more newer version. And I personally like this newer version better. What about you?
Yeah, I do too. This one here says New Mexico Crew welcomes you.
All right, you ready to head to our hotel for the night in Farmington, which is a little over an hour away?
Yeah, let's go. Let's get going. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, me too. We'll see you guys down the road for dinner.
After traveling on US Route 491 for about 20 miles, we eventually came into the town of Shiprock, where we made a left turn onto US Route 64, and then followed that for about 30 minutes down the road until we came into the city of Farmington, which is where we spent night 2 of our Southwest and Colorado road trip. Farmington is the largest city in the Four Corners region and is home to roughly 46,000 people and is the 6th largest city in all of New Mexico and has many services for travelers that are traveling through the Four Corners region. After passing through Farmington, my grandpa and I made our way over across town until we came to our hotel there at the Holiday Inn on the east side of town, and that's where I decided to take my grandpa to Blake's Whataburger for the first time. Blake's Whataburger is a fast food chain here in New Mexico. They also have locations in El Paso, Texas and Tucson, Arizona. They are well known for their New Mexico style burgers, and I tried it for the first time when I passed through New Mexico in 2020 and absolutely fell in love, so I was really excited for my grandpa to try it for the first time. After grabbing our food, we began to make our way back over to our hotel, which was luckily within walking distance of the restaurant.
All right, so my grandpa and I brought the food back to our hotel. Are you ready to dig in?
Yeah, I'll try it.
I promise it's not spicy. It actually tastes pretty good, in my personal opinion.
All right, let me take a bite. Yeah, it's good. I like it.
Yeah? You think everything's got good flavor?
Yeah, it does. I can taste the chilies. Yeah, it's good. I get it. I get it again.
Go ahead and take another bite, just to make sure.
Yeah, I like it.
So how would you rate it out of 10?
For the first time, I'll give it an 8.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. So you definitely order it again if you're in New Mexico.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, it's good.
Cool. All right, everyone, that's going to conclude my grandpa and I's second day here on our American Southwest road trip. So we saw some amazing things today, like Monument Valley, the goosenecks, the Mexican hat, and then the Four Corners region. So what was some of your favorite highlights from today?
Well, I really like Monument Valley. I'd never seen it before, so it was pretty awesome. And Four Corners was pretty interesting. I've never, been there before, and they did a really good job there. I was impressed.
Yeah, so basically everything that we saw today, both of us pretty much saw for the first time today together. So I thought that was pretty special that we got to see some first things today for the first time together. So it's always nice seeing something for the first time, but it's even more special when you get to do it with someone, who was also experiencing it for the first time. So I'm glad I got to share those experiences with you.
Yeah, I enjoyed it with you too. Yeah, it was fun. We had a good day today.
All right, good morning, everybody. It is my grandpa and I's third day on our Southwest road trip. And tell the people where we're heading today.
We're heading to Colorado, the $1 million highway.
Yep, so we're basically going to be spending the next 4 days in Colorado on our trip. So Colorado's obviously going to be the big highlight or emphasis on this entire trip. And so, yes, we are actually going to be driving the $1 million highway today. We're currently in Farmington, New Mexico, so we got about an hour and a half to drive until we get to the start of the highway up there near Durango. So I'm really looking forward to driving it. I purposely have not shown my grandpa any pictures of it because I want to get his real authentic reaction to driving it. It is supposed to be one of the most scenic drives in the United States.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, so we'll find out.
It was pretty bittersweet leaving New Mexico behind because I really wish I could explore more of New Mexico outside of the Four Corners region. But our main focus for this road trip was being in Colorado and seeing some fall colors and just introducing my grandpa to a lot of things that he's never seen before in the Centennial State. Colorado is my favorite state to visit out of all of the states that I've been to, and I just keep finding myself back here every single time. I absolutely love this state, and I just love exploring it from end to end. Durango sits at the foot of the San Juan Mountains and is the largest city in the southwestern part of Colorado near the Four Corners region. The city is one of the most beautiful in the United States, and one of the top tourist attractions here is to take the Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad up to Silverton, Colorado. It has been commonly referred to as one of the most scenic train rides in the United States. After leaving Durango, my grandpa and I began to head north along US Route 550 as we began to head up into the San Juan Mountains.
Man, these fall colors here on the $1 Million Highway are simply breathtaking, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I've never seen anything like it, and I'll tell you, it's pretty awesome.
So is the $1 Million Highway living up to its name so far?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. It definitely does in the fall.
Well, just all seasons, no matter which season you drive in, I'm sure it's beautiful too.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's really pretty in the wintertime too.
But this is just unbelievable. I've never seen fall colors like this.
Yeah.
And I've been to Colorado in the fall before, but this is something special right here.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It really is.
The $1 Million Highway is beautiful no matter what time of year you drive it, but during the fall, it is absolutely spectacular. In my personal opinion, this is one of the best fall drives in the United States, and probably the best one outside of New England here in the western United States and the Rocky Mountains. The aspens and all of their fall colors are on full display here when my grandpa and I drove this stretch on the last day of September here in 2024. Typically the fall colors peak here in early October, however this year the fall colors came just a little bit earlier and we seem to have catch them at the perfect time. I've been to Colorado in the fall in 2019 and 2020, but my grandpa has never been to Colorado during the fall, so I was really excited to see his reaction when we saw all these fall colors. We pulled into a scenic pullout here where there were just fall colors all around us, and it really felt like we were in an artist's painting, and it just didn't seem real. I'll be honest, we tried to stop at every scenic pullout that we could to see all the fall colors, and there were just so many it was just hard not to stop at all of them, let me tell you folks. I'm sure this drive is absolutely beautiful at all times of the year, but there's just really something about being here in the fall that just truly brings out the magic of the $1 Million Highway, and it's not hard to see why it's called that when you stop and see all these fall colors here along the highway. After stopping to check out the scenic fall colors here, we decided to keep driving north along US 550 as we climbed higher into the San Juan Mountains, where we eventually came up to our second summit here at Molasse Pass. The views up here are absolutely breathtaking, and the San Juan Mountains are easily one of the most scenic and beautiful mountain ranges here in the Rocky Mountains and the United States as a whole. It was definitely pretty chilly up here on this particular day of the trip as we were very high in elevation and it was pretty windy up here. Definitely dress warm if you're going to be coming to the higher elevations here in Colorado during the fall months. Alright, so my grandpa and I are here at the summit of Molasse Pass here along the $1 Million Highway here in the San Juan Mountains. We are just under 11,000 feet above sea level, and just look at the incredible views here at the summit of Molasse Pass. Pretty incredible, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's a gorgeous area right here. I mean, it's kind of like this little valley right here. You're surrounded by these 12s and 13ers all around us.
Yeah, so we're actually in San Juan County, Colorado here, which is, believe it or not, the highest mean elevation county in the entire United States. I believe the average mean elevation is over 11,000 feet in this county, so...
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
The county doesn't have a lot of 14ers, but it has a lot of 13ers, and that just brings the average elevation much higher than other surrounding counties.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Whew. You ready to start heading down the road?
Yeah, let's keep going.
They also have a lot of great information plaques up here at the summit of Molasse Pass here in the San Juan Mountains that talk about the history of the area. After descending down Molass Pass, we eventually came into the town of Silverton, which is one of the big historic mining towns found here in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado. Silverton was founded in 1874 and really began to explode in population after the completion of the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad in 1882. The mines here produced many precious metals and was one of Colorado's longest running and most productive mining towns. My grandpa and I quickly made our way over towards the courthouse to check out the abundance of fall colors here in the town of Silverton. The fall colors here were absolutely at their peak when my grandpa and I visited the town of Silverton here in the San Juan Mountains. It was an absolutely beautiful and incredible sight to see.
Man, this historic mining town of Silverton here on the $1 Million Highway is in full bloom, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a really nice little town here.
I mean, just look at the view behind you right there.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it? That whole freaking hill or mountain there is full of just beautiful colors.
Yep.
The San Juan County Courthouse here in Silverton is one of the oldest courthouses in Colorado. A fun fact about San Juan County, Colorado is that it's the least populated county in the entire state and has a population of roughly 750 people, and nearly 3/4 of them live here in Silverton. As previously mentioned, San Juan County is also the highest mean elevation county in the United States, and the average mean elevation here in San Juan County is 11,240 feet above sea level.
So the San Juan County Courthouse here in Silverton is pretty cool looking, I must say, and I must say it has an even better background right now, especially with all the fall colors.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah, it's a nice, it's an old courthouse, but it's nice. It's nice looking.
Yep, so San Juan County, in addition to being the highest county in the United States, is also the least populated county here in Colorado and has just over 700 residents.
Yeah.
After leaving Silverton, we began to head north along US Route 550 as we continued our journey through the San Juan Mountains and eventually crossed Red Mountain Pass here along US Route 550. The views of the San Juan Mountains as you head over Red Mountain Pass are absolutely breathtaking, and this is also where a lot of the steep grades and sharp curves kick in along US Route 550 here, which can be a big problem, especially during inclement weather. The descent down Red Mountain Pass into the town of Ouray is what really makes US 550 one of the most scenic drives in the United States, as it passes through the Uncompahgre Gorge as it makes its way down into the town of Ouray. This stretch of US Route 550 is the most dangerous portion of the route, especially in the wintertime. Despite its apparent dangers, the highway is kept open year-round. Unfortunately, we were catching just a little bit of rain here as we were making our way down Red Mountain Pass here through the Uncompahgre Gorge, even though it wasn't even noon yet. The weather can change pretty rapidly here in the San Juan Mountains, and the San Juan Mountains tend to create their own unique weather patterns here because of this high elevation mountain range that's kind of isolated from the rest of the Rocky Mountains. As you descend into the town of Ouray, you are greeted to absolutely breathtaking views. Ouray is known as the Switzerland of America, and it's not hard to see why once you enter the town and see the incredible views all around you. Very much like Silverton, Ouray has its origins in the mining industry. During its peak, Ouray had more than 30 active mines. The entirety of Main Street, or US Route 550 through downtown, is listed as a National Historic District, with many of the buildings here dating back to the late 19th century. Ouray is definitely one of the most beautiful small towns here in America, and I wish I could spend more time here, but I'm sure I'll be back in the future to explore more of what this area has to offer. And I'm sure my grandpa would enjoy that too, because he loves mining towns like this.
Alright, so my grandpa and I just got done driving the $1 Million Highway here in Colorado. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's pretty awesome pretty awesome road, I'll tell you. If you ever get a chance to do it, I would take the opportunity and go do it, because it's awesome, especially right now in the autumn.
Yeah, unfortunately, by the time you guys see this video, the fall colors will have already been passed, but let me tell you folks, this was on my bucket list for the longest time, and it sure as hell didn't disappoint.
After leaving Ouray, we made our way north along US Route 550 and followed it all the way to its northern terminus there in Montrose, Colorado, where it meets up with US 50. We then jumped on US 50 and headed east from Montrose all the way to Pueblo, Colorado. It was roughly a 4-hour drive across the Rocky Mountains, and if you guys know anything about US 50 across the Rocky Mountains, it is an absolutely beautiful drive. After leaving Montrose and heading east along US 50, we began our drive along the western slope in Colorado, which lies west of the Continental Divide here in the Rocky Mountains. This area is pretty sparsely populated and has many distances between major towns, so be sure you have enough gas when you leave each town and continue your journey along the western slope. You may notice the landscapes here along the western slope are pretty arid, even though we're as high as 9,000 feet in some places. The scenery definitely got a lot more interesting the closer we got to the Blue Mesa Reservoir, which, believe it or not, is the largest body of water here in Colorado. Unfortunately, when we got to the Blue Mesa Reservoir, this is where we ran into a lot of the construction along US 50 in Colorado. It took us roughly 1 hour to pass through the area as they were working on numerous bridges here across the Blue Mesa Reservoir. While we were in stop traffic here, I decided to hop out of the car and just capture these videos for you guys to see here of the beautiful Blue Mesa Reservoir area. This area is honestly one of the most underrated areas in Colorado and sees roughly 1 million visitors a year here in the Keyur National Recreation Area. The Keyur National Recreation Area was established in 1965 and is home to 3 different reservoirs, with the Blue Mesa Reservoir here being the highlight of the National Recreation Area. Other reservoirs include the Morrow Point Reservoir and the Crystal Reservoir, which are all along the Gunnison River here, which is a major tributary of the Colorado River. The National Recreation Area is a popular area for boating and fishing, as well as having numerous campsites throughout the area as well. One big difference between 2020 and 2024, besides driving in the opposite direction here at the Blue Mesa Reservoir, is that the reservoir was a lot fuller here in 2024, as there was no water in this back area over here when I passed through here in 2020. After leaving the Keyur National Recreation Area, we continued east along US 50 and eventually reached the city of Gunnison. Gunnison is the last city along the western slope here along US 50 in Colorado. Gunnison is a college town and is home to Western Colorado University, which is the oldest university in Colorado's western slope. As we continued to head east along US 50, we eventually kept climbing up in elevation as we approached the Continental Divide here in the Sawatch Range. We gained nearly 3,000 feet in elevation as we climbed up Monarch Pass, which is the highest point on US 50 and sits 11,312 feet above sea level. The views when you get to the top of the pass are absolutely breathtaking. When we crossed Monarch Pass, we officially crossed the Continental Divide and then began our descent into the Arkansas River Valley. The fall colors were at their peak here along US 50 and Monarch Pass, and there is one section here along the east side of the pass that we just had to stop at because the fall colors were absolutely vibrant and beautiful, and it was just a really awesome sight to see. Colorado in the fall time is absolutely breathtaking, and if you do your research, you can find some of the best fall colors in the United States here in this beautiful part of the country. Timing is also everything. The fall colors usually start first in the northern part of the state and then make their way south as the season progresses.
All right, so my grandpa and I just crossed the Continental Divide here on US 50, and these fall colors here on Monarch Pass on the east side are spectacular, aren't they? There's just so many colors here.
Yeah, they really are. There's reds, greens, yellows, oranges. Really pretty right here. Right, this one section right here.
Yeah. Can you see why I love coming to Colorado in the fall?
Yeah, I can. It's awesome.
Yeah. We don't get colors like this in California.
No, not really.
We don't really get seasons like this in California either, so.
Yeah, that's our biggest problem in California. We kind of go from summer to winter.
Yep. All right, you ready to continue heading east?
Yeah, let's go.
After leaving Monarch Pass, we eventually lost over 3,000 feet in elevation as we made our way into the Arkansas River Valley, where we eventually met up with US 285 and then briefly merged onto that road and then continued east along US 50 through Salida. And then we eventually made our way through Bighorn Sheep Canyon down into the Great Plains, where we eventually ended up in Pueblo, Colorado, which is where we spent night 3 of our road trip here in Colorado. All right, good morning, everybody. It is day number 4 on my grandpa and I's Colorado/Southwest road trip. Why don't you tell the people where we're going today?
Well, as far as I know, we're going to Pikes Peak.
Yep, and shout out to my grandpa for giving us a preview here with his shirt that I got him when I went about 5 years ago. So, we're going to be pretty high in elevation, aren't we?
Yeah, about 14,000 feet.
Yep, but we got to make a pit stop up ahead in Colorado Springs, and I'll let you know what that is when we get there. So, you ready to hit the road?
Yeah, let's do it.
My grandpa and I made our way back over to Interstate 25, and then we drove about 45 minutes north from Pueblo up towards Colorado Springs. One of my favorite views along I-25 coming into Colorado Springs is how it bypasses downtown Colorado Springs, and then you just have an awesome view of Pikes Peak there. And it was just an awesome precursor to what we were going to be seeing later that day as we made our way up the mountain. Our first order of business was to get some lunch when we got into Colorado Springs, and my grandpa and I made our way over to Whataburger, which was just recently opened here in Colorado, I believe the previous year. All right, Grandpa, where are we right now?
Whataburger.
Yep. So I kind of feel bad about our experience at Whataburger in Las Vegas because we kind of had to go through a maze to get to it. But, here in Colorado, they're just normal Whataburgers that are full restaurants with drive-thrus and everything like that, just like they are in Texas. In fact, these Whataburgers here in Colorado are brand new. I believe most of them opened within the last year. So this is a very new addition and a very welcome addition to Colorado, if you ask me.
Yeah, they're good. The one in Vegas is a nightmare, I tell you. It's good, though. That was my first experience with Whataburger, and they're good.
Yep. Kind of nice to see what an actual one looks like, huh?
Yeah, it does.
Well, would you like to go inside?
Yeah, let's go check it out.
Believe it or not, the first time I ever experienced Whataburger was on my 2021 road trip to Texas. Believe it or not, the first time I actually tried Whataburger wasn't in Texas, but was actually in Phoenix, Arizona, so I kind of cheated myself a little bit there, but they actually started in Texas, I believe in the 1940s. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but it's a pretty popular burger and fast food chain in the southern United States, and they just recently came to Colorado here, I believe in 2023. They are only in Colorado Springs, but they are expanding down into Pueblo, and it is unknown whether or not they're going to expand into the Denver metro area in the future. All right, so I got the Hatch Green Chili Burger here at Whataburger. I've been waiting since we left Las Vegas to try this, so. Don't get me wrong, folks. I love In-N-Out Burger, but there's just something about Whataburger. Maybe it's because I eat In-N-Out like almost every day, but I don't know. Whataburger just really hits the spot, and I'm so glad that they're here in Colorado now. As of 2024, when we're recording this, Whataburger is only in the Colorado Springs area, but they're actually going to be opening up some Whataburgers down south in Pueblo very soon. So I'm just happy that they're here in Colorado. Unfortunately, they're not in the Denver area yet, but I'm sure they'll start expanding up there maybe sooner than later, hopefully. But 10 out of 10, I love me some Whataburger. All right, we'll see you guys down the road when we start heading up towards Pikes Peak. As we left Whataburger and began making our way back towards Pikes Peak in downtown Colorado Springs, my grandpa and I stopped at a scenic pullout here along Interstate 25, which provided great views back towards Pikes Peak, as well as provided some great information plaques about the Colorado Springs area. Of course, the scenic pullout here also is right in front of the United States Air Force Academy, and you can often see people flying planes here as they're training to fight in the United States Air Force. I'll be honest, I'm a little jealous of the people that live here in Colorado Springs because they just have amazing views of Pikes Peak and the surrounding mountains here as a backdrop for their city. Pikes Peak is definitely dominating the skyline of Colorado Springs here, and it just really stands out because it's just a 14,000 foot mountain that doesn't really have any other tall mountains surrounding it. It's a pretty awesome view here with the Air Force Academy with Pikes Peak in the background.
Yeah, it is. It's just a fantastic view right here of the whole area right around here. It's nice. It's really nice.
I really love the geographic setting of the Colorado Springs area right here.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty cool.
That plane just took off there in the background, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, there it goes.
After driving through Garden of the Gods, we made our way over to US 24, which brought us up to the Pikes Peak Highway, and I gotta say, the views along this road here of Pikes Peak as you begin to head up into the mountains from Colorado Springs is just absolutely breathtaking. The mountain just kept getting bigger and bigger the closer we were getting to it. Be sure to be on the lookout for the left turn there off US 24 as you come into the town of Cascade to begin your journey up the Pikes Peak Highway. It should be noted that the Pikes Peak Highway is a toll road, and as of 2024, it costs $15 per person in your vehicle to go to the top of Pikes Peak. It is not per vehicle, it is how many people are in your vehicle. So in the case of my grandpa and I, it was $30 for both of us to drive to the top of Pikes Peak. And trust me, the $30 is definitely worth it because the views will only get better the higher in elevation you go. Our first stop here along the Pikes Peak Highway was around mile marker 6, where we had a scenic overlook of the Crystal Creek Reservoir. The Crystal Creek Reservoir is 136 acres in surface area, has a shore length of just over 3 miles, and has a surface elevation of about 9,230 feet above sea level. My grandpa and I were driving up to Pikes Peak on the first day of October here in 2024, and the fall colors here at this elevation were basically at their peak. It was a beautiful sight to see. To say the views were even better here at the visitor center would be a complete understatement. The views here of the crystal clear waters reflecting off Pikes Peak there in the background is just an awesome sight to see, and was definitely a big highlight when driving the Pikes Peak Highway here up to the top of Pikes Peak here in Colorado. I must say that my grandpa and I really had the perfect weather conditions as we were driving up to the top of Pikes Peak here in early October, considering that this is the time of the year when the seasons are rapidly changing here in the Rocky Mountains. The weather was about 10 degrees warmer than it normally would be this time of the year, but my grandpa certainly wasn't complaining because he's pretty sensitive to the cold. After spending some time there at the Crystal Creek Reservoir, we got back on the road and just started climbing up in elevation as we made our way to the top of Pikes Peak. We didn't really stop for anything between there and the top of Pikes Peak. We just rolled the windows down and just took in all the nice, clean, thin air. And oh boy, the higher in elevation we got, we definitely started feeling the thinner air up there at the higher elevations, let me tell you. Alright folks, it's at this point in the drive where the steep grades, sharp curves, and steep drop-offs really start to take over here. And you might also notice that there's no more trees here at this elevation because we are above the timberline, which is approximately 11,500 feet here in this part of Colorado. At long last, we finally made it to the summit of Pikes Peak. My grandpa and I spent about an hour up here just taking in the beautiful sights and sounds being on top of America's mountain, as well as checking out the various information plaques that they had inside and outside. My grandpa and I parked right next to a plaque that stated the song America the Beautiful, which was inspired by Catherine Lee Bates' 1893 visit to Pikes Peak here in Colorado. America the Beautiful remains an important cultural and patriotic contribution to the country she loved, and is a lasting testament to the wild beauty of Pikes Peak and the surrounding landscape. My grandpa and I spent a good 20 minutes up here at the summit of Pikes Peak just taking in the incredible views in every direction. One thing that's really nice about Pikes Peak is that it's a 14,000 foot mountain that's not surrounded by any other tall mountains within its vicinity, so the views are absolutely incredible. To the north, you can look up towards Denver and some of the other 14ers up there in the northern part of the Front Range and the Front Range Urban Corridor. Unfortunately, it was just a little bit too hazy for us to see Denver from our visit up here at Pikes Peak here in October of 2024 due to some wildfires that were burning up north towards Wyoming. Of course, when you look out to the east from Pikes Peak, you just get incredible views out towards Colorado Springs and the Colorado Springs metropolitan area. On exceptionally clear days, it's been reported that you can see as far out as Oklahoma and Kansas out there in the Great Plains. Even though it was a little bit hazy when my grandpa and I were at the summit of Pikes Peak here in October of 2024, the views out towards Colorado Springs were just absolutely incredible. It's really amazing just to see how far you can see on top of this mountain right here. It just feels like you can see out forever. One nice thing about Pikes Peak is at the end of the parking lot, they actually have a USGS marker that officially marks the summit of Pikes Peak, America's mountain. It's really cool how you can actually go over there and stand on top of the actual summit of Pikes Peak, and my grandpa and I went over there and waited our turn to get our photo opportunities. Another thing I like is how they have the name of Pikes Peak and what the local Native Americans call it in their language. All right, Grandpa, where are you standing right now?
I'm standing on the top of Pikes Peak, America's mountain.
How does it feel?
Pretty awesome.
They have plenty of information plaques that talk about what life is like up here at the summit of Pikes Peak at over 14,000 feet in elevation. After spending about 20 minutes outside taking in the views, the winds were really getting to us up there at the summit, so we decided to head inside the visitor center that they have there at the summit, and we decided to check out what's inside. One thing I really like is that they have the old summit sign on display in here. That's the old sign from when I was up here in 2019.
Oh, that one there?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
After we made our way inside, we proceeded to go down the stairs where the main exhibits, gift shop, restaurant, and restrooms were. It was just really nice to be inside away from the wind because it was about 44 degrees at the summit, but it was actually closer to 36 with the wind chill factor. While my grandpa was using the restroom, I decided to take a few minutes and just explore around the area there where the cafe and gift shop were, as well as check out some of the exhibits. So it was just really nice taking it all in. One thing I will say though is that everything in the gift shop is really expensive, and I was honestly a little bit disappointed because it seems like they just really kind of nickel and dime you and just rip you off there just because it's a big tourist attraction. So just be prepared to spend a pretty penny if you go to the gift shop there. After my grandpa was done using the restroom, we made our way over to the cafe and gift shop where we got some donuts and some snacks just to kind of tide us over there because we were definitely building up an appetite at being over 14,000 feet up there. And I must say, the cafe is definitely a lot more reasonably priced than the gift shop. So they're pretty famous for their donuts here.
That's what I hear. Yeah, you were telling me that.
Well, you ready to dig in?
Yeah, let's try them. See.
Cheers. They are well known for their donuts here at Pikes Peak, and I must say that the donuts definitely lived up to expectations. After spending about 5 minutes there in the cafe, we just made our way over to where all of the exhibits are, which give a lot of information about Pikes Peak and what life is like up there at the summit at over 14,000 feet. And they also have really great information there just about the climate and everything that goes on there at Pikes Peak, as well as like a lot of information and history on the Pikes Peak Highway itself, which I definitely appreciate. And I definitely incorporated a lot of the information that I learned up there at the summit of Pikes Peak from these exhibits into my actual driving video of driving down from the summit of Pikes Peak. So be sure to check out that video here, and then I'll give you guys a little bit of a preview of that video here in just a moment. I must say, they did a really nice job here with redesigning the Summit Visitor Center up here at the top of Pikes Peak, and it's definitely worth a visit. Just like I said, if you're gonna come up here and spend money, just be prepared to spend a lot of money, especially if you go to the gift shop. But other than that, the experiences up here were just absolutely amazing. Like I said earlier, I'll have a full video of my grandpa and I's drive down from the summit of Pikes Peak here on YouTube, so be sure to check that video out. It's just absolutely amazing, and the views as you descend down from the summit of Pikes Peak are just absolutely breathtaking. It should be noted, as you descend down Pikes Peak, there is a mandatory brake check station around the timberline at approximately 11,500 feet. And if your brakes are too hot, they will make you stop and let your brakes cool off before you continue your descent down the mountain. It is recommended that you put your car in low gear as you descend down Pikes Peak to put less strain on your brakes as you make your way down, and you will lose more than half of your elevation by the time you get back to US 24 from the summit of Pikes Peak. Pikes Peak sits 14,115 feet above sea level, and by the time you reach US 24, you'll be about 7,000 feet above sea level. It should be noted that the Pikes Peak Highway here is the second highest paved road in North America, second only to the Mount Blue Sky Scenic Byway, which is only 15 feet higher than the Pikes Peak Highway here in Colorado. After safely making our way down Pikes Peak and not losing our brakes in the process, my grandpa and I headed down to US 24 back to Colorado Springs, where we spent the rest of the day exploring Garden of the Gods, which is hands down one of my favorite urban parks here in the United States, and the best part is that it's absolutely free to visit. The first thing we did when we got to Garden of the Gods was head over to Balanced Rock, which is one of the most popular attractions here in Garden of the Gods, and for good reason. Balanced Rock has always been one of the more popular attractions here in Garden of the Gods, and it was so popular that when personal cameras became more widely available during the 1890s, a man named Paul Gork purchased the land and began charging people 25 cents to take photos of the rock, which is equal to roughly $6.50 in today's money. Nowadays, people don't even have to pay to take photos of the rock, and it's a very popular spot to take photos of people trying to push the rock over or trying to lift it up with their back. And it's just really awesome to see such an awesome formation like this here, just outside of the downtown area of Colorado Springs. It's just really awesome that geologic wonders like this exist, and just makes for really awesome photo opportunities here in Colorado Springs and Garden of the Gods.
All right, so what do you think of Balanced Rock here in Garden of the Gods?
Yeah, it's pretty neat, man. It's a neat formation. It's been here a long time.
Yeah. Hopefully there's no earthquakes anytime soon.
Yeah, really. The big old thing would end up down the road.
You ready to go explore more of Garden of the Gods?
Yeah, let's go check it out. This place is really neat.
After visiting Balanced Rock, my grandpa and I made our way over to the Garden of the Gods Trading Post, which is the oldest and largest gift shop in Colorado. The Trading Post was opened in 1929 and has expanded over the years, and was originally 2,000 square feet when it first opened in 1929, and by 1979 it was over 25,000 square feet. The store features many souvenirs such as t-shirts, sweaters, mugs, magnets, hats that are all themed to Colorado and Garden of the Gods itself. And the Trading Post also features a number of jewelry, sculptures, and pottery from local Native American tribes in the area. The Trading Post gets over 400,000 visitors per year and even has a small cafe area. My grandpa and I made our way over to the Perkins Central Garden Trail, which is paved and is very easily accessible and is even wheelchair accessible. As we left behind the car and began walking out on the trail, they do have restrooms there if you need to use them, and we were just really overtaken by these awesome rock formations on all sides. And I really liked how I was able to capture the sun poking through this hole in the rock right here. I thought that was just really awesome. While most of the rocks in Garden of the Gods do have that red color to them, they do have these like more white or gray colored rocks as well on the opposite side of the park.
Man, I just love all these colorful rock formations. You got the red ones behind me over here, and then behind my grandpa here, you got these more gray colored ones.
Yeah, it's interesting to have that, see that, because, you know, everything in here is the red rock, the red oxide rock type, and then you got this one, whatever this is here, sitting here, all by itself in the park here. It's weird.
This is a really cool place, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I really like this. This is really, really awesome.
Garden of the Gods became a national natural landmark in 1971, as the site possesses exceptional value as an illustration of the nation's natural heritage and contributions to a better understanding of the environment. Garden of the Gods was officially turned over to the city of Colorado Springs in 1909 by the children of Charles Eliot Perkins, as his last wish was that the park to be kept open free to the public for the fulfillment of its natural beauty and inspiring natural landscapes. This particular formation here is known as the Sentinel Spires and is popular because you can literally feel like you're inside of a cave there.
How does it feel in there?
Like I'm in a hole in a cave.
Does it feel pretty cool?
Yeah.
Prior to the arrival of European settlement, many Native American tribes visited and settled around the Garden of the Gods area, including the Apache, Cheyenne, Comanche, Lakota, Shoshone, and Ute people. These particular formations here in Garden of the Gods are called the Cathedral Spires. Garden of the Gods is open from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. from May 1st to October 31st, and from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. from November 1st to April 30th. Many of these Native American tribes developed traditions and cultural events centered around these formations as they were considered sacred to the tribes. The first non-native settler to purchase land around Garden of the Gods was Charles Eliot Perkins when he purchased 480 acres of land around present-day Garden of the Gods in 1879. One thing to note is that rock climbing is permitted inside Garden of the Gods, however, you need a permit. You can acquire permits from the City of Colorado Springs website. I was first introduced to Garden of the Gods in 2019 when I came here with my friend Jessica, the same day we went to the top of Pikes Peak in Colorado, and it was just really awesome that I got to visit this place here with my grandpa and show it to him for the first time as well. This particular formation is known as the Three Graces, which are three towering red sandstone rock pillars that stand close together. It's formations like these that make this park a popular spot for photography, whether you're an amateur or professional photographer. Garden of the Gods is easily one of my favorite places to visit in Colorado, especially when I'm in the Colorado Springs area. And I hope this video sheds some light and brings more people to this area too to check out these awesome formations.
All right, Grandpa, what did you think of Garden of the Gods here in Colorado Springs?
I think it's really interesting. It's a really interesting place. I've never seen anything like it. It's like this rock formation right in one little small area, and nothing else is around it. It's like it sprung up out of the ground. I don't know. Or fell from the sky, one or the other. Maybe it is the Garden of the Gods. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's just really cool that it's inside a major city like Colorado Springs, and it's free to visit.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, it's really nice.
All right, everyone, and that's going to conclude my grandpa and I's time here in Garden of the Gods in Colorado Springs, and that's also going to conclude all our activities for day number 4.
I'll be honest, when planning this trip, the 5th day was kind of a wild card day, and I didn't really have any set itinerary for what my grandpa and I were going to be doing on this particular day of the trip. After leaving Colorado Springs, my grandpa and I began our journey out towards Buena Vista along US Route 24. As you begin to climb up into the mountains, you get really amazing views of Pikes Peak, which we were reminiscing about our time driving up to Pikes Peak the previous day, and it's just really awesome to see this different perspective of Pikes Peak from down here compared to when we were on top of the mountain the previous day. After ascending up into the mountains, we eventually made our way into Teller County and the city of Woodland Park. After passing through Woodland Park, we got one last view of Pikes Peak before we continued our journey up into the mountains here along US 24, and then we eventually reached Ute Pass there in the town of Divide, which is one of many mountain passes that we crossed on this particular day of the trip. After passing through a number of small towns there along US 24 as we continued our drive west, we eventually entered Park County and then eventually crossed our second mountain pass of the day, which was Wilkerson Pass. After crossing Wilkerson Pass, we then passed through the massive South Park grassland, which is one of the highest elevation grasslands in the United States and the world, and is even home to the headwaters of the South Platte River. We eventually made our way over to US 285 and then turned left to continue our journey on US 24, and then we reached the summit of Trout Creek Pass. The main goal for today was to basically see as many 14ers as we possibly could, and this particular trip you could take along US Route 24 here in the Arkansas River Valley passes by more 14ers than any other place in the United States. As we begun our descent into Buena Vista from Trout Creek Pass, our first set of 14ers were becoming plainly visible with Mount Princeton dominating the horizon. We pulled into a scenic pullout here just outside the town of Buena Vista as we were coming into town here along US Route 24. In the distance is the Sawatch Range, which contains more 14ers than any other mountain range in Colorado and the United States. 15 of the 53 Colorado 14ers are found here in the Sawatch Range alone. This particular section of the range is known as the Collegiate Peaks because many of the 14ers here are named after famous universities back east. There's plenty of information plaques here that go over the history of the area as well as many of the mountains that you can see in the distance. From south to north, here are a list of the 14ers that you can see from this scenic pullout. Here we're looking at Mount Shivano, which sits 14,231 feet. And this mountain right here is Mount Antero, which sits 14,276 feet above sea level. Right here is Mount Princeton, which sits 14,197 feet above sea level. And what makes Mount Princeton unique is the fact that it is directly west of the town of Buena Vista and is also one of the largest mountains in Colorado by volume. Mount Princeton definitely stands alone compared to its other collegiate peak brethren. Right here we're looking at Mount Yale, which is only 1 foot shorter than Mount Princeton and stands 14,196 feet above sea level. And right here we're looking at both Mount Harvard and Mount Columbia. Mount Harvard is the center of this mountaintop right here, and then off to the left you can see Mount Columbia just behind it.
All right, Grandpa, we're just outside of the town of Buena Vista here in Chaffee County, and in the distance there is the Sawatch Range, which contains more 14ers than any other mountain range in Colorado. We literally have about 5 or 6 14ers that we're looking at right here. So what do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome out here, you know, looking at all these 14ers. I know some of them are named after colleges.
A lot of them, yes. So this section right here of the Sawatch Range is known as the Collegiate Peaks because a lot of them are named after universities. Right there you can see Mount Princeton. Right there you can see Mount Yale. Right over there you can see Mount Harvard and Mount Columbia.
Yeah.
And then of course to the south over there you could see Mount Antero and then Mount Shivano farther to the south over that way. Like I said, they're all 14ers, and Colorado has the largest collection of 14ers of any U.S. state. There's over 50 peaks here in Colorado that are over 14,000 feet, and 15 of them are going to be within this range right here.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. That's a lot of 14ers.
After leaving the scenic pullout right there, we began to make our way into the town of Buena Vista. US 285 leaves us behind and starts heading south towards the San Luis Valley, while US 24 makes a right turn and heads in a more northerly direction, even though it's still signed as an east-west route north towards Leadville. And I just love how Mount Princeton acts as the perfect backdrop for the town of Buena Vista, because it's just really awesome how it just sits right there in the background of this town. Man, I'm just jealous of the people that live here that get to wake up to these views every single morning. My grandpa and I made our way through the town of Buena Vista and then just continued north and west, I guess technically, along US Route 24, and then we just stopped to look at all of the 14ers. And one thing I really like that Colorado DOT does is they put the name of the mountain, the elevation, and they have a sign that points right directly at the mountain. I really wish other states would do this, but it's just really awesome that Colorado DOT does this here along US 24, because these are some of the highest peaks in the entire state after all. Right here, just north of Buena Vista, you get really awesome views of Mount Yale, which of course is named after Yale University, which is the third oldest institution of higher education in the United States and is located in New Haven, Connecticut.
All right, so right out there in the distance is Mount Yale, which is named after Yale University in Connecticut. And it is only 1 foot shorter than nearby Mount Princeton, which a lot of people like to bring rocks up to the summit of each mountain to make the other one taller, which I think is kind of funny, but...
Yeah, that is kind of funny. I guess it's probably people that have gone to those schools or live in those states, you know,
yeah,
where the Ivy League schools are. But that's, yeah, that is pretty funny, though.
If you keep driving just a few minutes north or west along US Route 24, you'll run into Mount Harvard, which is the third highest point in Colorado and is also the fourth highest mountain in the contiguous United States. Mount Harvard is named after Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and is the oldest institution of higher learning in the United States.
All right, Grandpa, out in the distance there is Mount Harvard, which is named after Harvard University in Massachusetts. So Mount Harvard here in Colorado is the third highest point in all of Colorado, just after Mount Massive and Mount Elbert to our north.
Yeah, it's another 14er, and it's pretty neat to see these all here. Right there.
Yep. Pretty cool how we're going to be seeing the first, second, and third highest points in Colorado here in the span of 30 minutes.
Yeah, it is. It's cool.
All right, ready to continue north?
Yeah, let's go.
If you keep heading north or west along US Route 24, you'll eventually run into Mount Elbert, which is the highest mountain in Colorado and the Rocky Mountains, and the second highest mountain in the contiguous United States after Mount Whitney in California. And believe it or not, despite being the highest mountain in Colorado, it's actually one of the easiest 14ers to climb in the state. And one thing that's really cool about Mount Elbert is if you look just to the north to the mountain on the right, it is Mount Massive, which is the second highest point in Colorado and the Rocky Mountains, and the third highest point in the contiguous United States. Unfortunately, there's no road sign pointing out Mount Massive along US Route 24, so Mount Massive sits 14,428 feet above sea level, which makes it 12 feet shorter than Mount Elbert. And the sign there for Mount Elbert lists it at 14,433, but most measurements have the mountain listed at 14,440 feet. Alright, so my grandpa and I are here in front of the two highest mountains in Colorado. That's Mount Elbert right there on the left, which is the highest point in Colorado and the Rocky Mountains, and second highest point in the contiguous US after Mount Whitney in California. And just off to the right over there is Mount Massive, which is the second highest point in Colorado. So man, what do you think just seeing these mountains right here and just seeing the highest mountain in Colorado? What are your general thoughts on seeing it?
Well, it's pretty amazing. I mean, there's, like I said, you got the highest and the second highest right here, plus all the other 14ers in the area, so it's pretty cool.
After leaving behind the views of Mount Elbert and Mount Massive, my grandpa and I made our way north towards the city of Leadville, which, believe it or not, is the highest incorporated city in the United States and sits 10,152 feet above sea level. Leadville is known as the Cloud City and the 2-mile high city. I passed through the Leadville area in 2019, and it was just really cool that my grandpa was with me this time around to check out some of these places that he's never seen before, and just really getting his reaction and seeing some of these places for the first time was just really cool in my opinion. Leadville was originally founded during the Pikes Peak Gold Rush, and then later it became a big silver mining town here in the Rocky Mountains. And believe it or not, Leadville at one point was the second largest city in all of Colorado, just behind Denver. Driving through Leadville makes it feel like you're passing through history. Let me tell you folks, Leadville is definitely one of the best preserved mining towns out there, and don't let the high elevation scare you. It's definitely a really cool place to visit, and I highly recommend checking it out and just walking the historic downtown and checking out many of the historic buildings here, as many of them are on the National Register of Historic Places. After passing through Leadville, we finally left US 24 as we continued straight onto Colorado State Route 91 and followed it over Fremont Pass. I originally drove Fremont Pass for the first time in 2019, and it was just really cool driving over this again here in 2024 and filming it in 4K for you guys to see. Fremont Pass is one of the easiest mountain passes to cross in Colorado due to its very gentle slopes on each side of the pass, and is also one of the highest paved roads in Colorado as well. I believe it's in the top 10, and it's also one of the highest paved crossings of the Continental Divide as well. After crossing over Fremont Pass, we made our way back over to Interstate 70, where we briefly merged on to continue our journey over towards the Dillon area, where we would eventually meet US 6 and depart I-70 and then begin our journey over Loveland Pass. Before heading over towards Loveland Pass, though, we did stop at a scenic pullout here near the town of Frisco, which overlooked Lake Dillon and the surrounding area. This scenic overlook right here overlooks the Dillon Reservoir, which is a recreation reservoir here in the Rocky Mountains and is popular all year round. The Dillon Reservoir is owned by the city of Denver and is Denver's main water supply. If you look out to the east from the Dillon Reservoir out towards the Loveland Pass area, you get to see two 14ers, which are Gray's and Torrey's Peak respectively. Gray's Peak is located on the right, and Torrey's Peak is located on the left right there. Gray's Peak is actually the highest summit of the Front Range of the Rocky Mountains and is the 10th highest mountain in the state overall. One thing I really like about this view area too is that it has great information about the Eisenhower and Johnson tunnels there along I-70 and provides really great information of the construction history of those tunnels. After visiting the scenic pullout there along I-70, we got back on I-70 briefly and then got off there where US 6 splits off from I-70 to head towards Loveland Pass. Loveland Pass is the highest year-round mountain pass in the United States and is the official bypass of the Eisenhower Tunnel. This road is kept open year-round despite being nearly 12,000 feet in elevation. This is because, as a bypass of the Eisenhower Tunnel, in case of emergencies or closures, the only way to get around the tunnel is going over Loveland Pass. Loveland Pass is always going to have a special place in my heart because it is the very first video I ever uploaded to YouTube on August 3rd, 2011. I was 15 years old at the time, and I could not even imagine what my YouTube channel was even going to be at the time and what it's become today. So if you guys have been watching me, whether you started all the way back in 2011 or you just watched me recently or somewhere in between, I just want to thank you all so much for watching my content over the years. It's just really awesome that you guys have supported me for this long, and then I'm still doing this here as a young adult, and it's just really awesome that you guys can just follow along with me through all these journeys with me and my grandpa and like other people that I just so happen to bring along for the journey as well. I always like to say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And what an incredible journey it has been here on YouTube. And I'm so glad so many of you enjoy watching what I do and just bringing you guys along with me. It means more to me than I'll ever get to express here on this microphone for you guys through my camera and everything like that. You guys mean everything to me, and I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart.
All right, my grandpa and I made it to the top of Loveland Pass here in Colorado, which is the highest point on US 6 and is also the Continental Divide and is also the highest year-round mountain pass in the United States. That is because it is the official bypass of the Eisenhower Tunnel, which is just down below over there on I-70.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been up here. I think you were 15 years old the last time we came through here.
As a unit, yes.
Yeah.
I was up here in 2019 to take a trip down memory lane, but this video will always hold a special place in my heart because this is the very first video I ever uploaded to YouTube, so.
Yeah, it's true, yeah.
And we've come a real long way since then, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
We're a lot older now, aren't we?
Aren't we? Yeah.
And surprisingly, despite the fact that we're just below 12,000 feet, it really isn't that cold up here, even though it's the beginning of October.
Yeah, it's not bad, really.
Looking out towards the east from Loveland Pass, you get really great views there out towards the Atlantic side of the Continental Divide, and you can even see Interstate 70 and US 6 down below you right there. As previously mentioned, Loveland Pass is the official bypass of the Eisenhower Tunnel, so if you are carrying hazardous material or if you're over 13 feet 11 inches, you are required to use Loveland Pass at all times of the year and not go through the Eisenhower Tunnel. Despite us being nearly 12,000 feet in elevation here in early October, it was actually quite warm when my grandpa and I were up here. I mean, we were in shorts and a t-shirt just fine, even with a little bit of a wind up there at the top of Loveland Pass. And if you look back west into the south from Loveland Pass, you'll get really great views of Gray's and Torrey's Peak, which are very easily accessible there from Loveland Pass. Another fun fact about Gray's Peak is that it's actually the highest point on the Continental Divide here in the United States and is also the highest point on the Continental Divide Trail. After leaving Loveland Pass, we begun our descent down the east side of the pass and eventually made our way back over to Interstate 70, where US 6 merges back onto I-70 here and basically follows it all the way down to the Denver metropolitan area. After a slow slog through Denver, which included some really nice skyline views here as we were merging onto Interstate 25, then we also got some really nice stadium views here where the Denver Broncos play here just west of downtown. We eventually made our way north towards Fort Collins. When Buc-ee's first announced that I was moving to Colorado here just outside the city of Loveland, I was beyond excited, and I was excited to let my grandpa see Buc-ee's for the first time because I absolutely love this place when I visited it for the first time when I was in Texas in 2021. Let me tell you, I was beyond excited to go to Buc-ee's for the first time in 3 years, and I was even more excited to see my grandpa's reaction to Buc-ee's here for the first time here in Colorado. We proceeded to pull into a gas pump where I proceeded to pump some gas into my car for the next day's adventures here in Colorado. Gas prices at Buc-ee's are actually pretty cheap compared to other gas stations around the area, but here in Colorado they were actually about the same price as other gas stations. And one thing I find annoying about Colorado is the fact that their unleaded tier is 85 octane when my car is rated for 87, but 87 is the base octane here where I live in California. Is this an issue for you guys whenever you guys visit the Mountain West? Because it seems like they only have like 85 octane gasoline as their unleaded fuel.
Welcome to Buc-ee's at Johnstown, Colorado. Let's go inside.
All right, Grandpa, we finally made it to Buc-ee's here in Colorado. This place is humongous, to say the least.
Yeah, it sure is. I've never seen so many gas pumps in my life. It's about like, I swear it's a block long where the gas pumps are.
Yeah.
And the store is about almost as big. It's huge.
You ready to go inside and see how much money we end up spending?
Well, let's go inside. We'll see about the money thing.
This particular Buc-ee's here in Colorado is over 74,000 square feet and contains 116 gas pumps and 12 electric vehicle charging stations. Buc-ee's has everything and anything that you can possibly imagine for road trips and honestly goes really overboard. They are very well known for their jerky and clean restrooms, and their restrooms have even won some awards with how clean they are. Buc-ee's is the definition of a tourist trap, and they definitely sell anything and everything that you can possibly think of with their logo on it.
So one thing Buc-ee's is known for is their extremely clean restrooms. You, sir, have just used the restroom. What can you say about that?
Yeah, you can probably eat off the floors in there. It's definitely clean, really clean.
Yeah?
Yeah, I never seen so many urinals in my life either.
Believe it or not, my grandpa and I even have Buc-ee's brisket sandwiches for dinner, and stay tuned for Grandpa's food reviews on the brisket sandwich coming here shortly.
They're really well known for their brisket sandwiches.
Well, I'll have to try one and see how good it is.
Buc-ee's is definitely one of those places where they definitely don't make that much money on selling their gas, but they actually make money of what they sell here in the store, which makes total perfect sense when you actually come in here and see what they have to sell and offer. I spent more money here than I would like to admit, and if you can guess the correct amount that I spent here in the store, I'll heart your comment.
So many options here, huh?
Yeah, there is. You can get lost. This reminds me of Costco. You come in here, you'll buy everything. It's crazy, but it's neat. It's a neat store, though.
After spending a good 30 minutes here at Buc-ee's, we made our way back to the car and then eventually made our way back to the hotel for the evening as we concluded day 5 here on our Southwest and Colorado road trip.
All right, Grandpa, what did you think of your first time at Buc-ee's here in Colorado?
It's a pretty neat store. I've never seen anything that's big, you know. I've never seen that many, like I said before, that many gas pumps in one place. And it's a neat place. You can get everything you need here.
Yep. Like I said, it's like a gas station on steroids.
It sure is.
So you definitely come back here again?
Yeah, I would go. Yeah, I would.
How would you rate it out of 10?
I'll give it a 10.
Especially for the clean restrooms?
Oh, yeah, the restrooms are, you can eat off the floors. It's really good.
All right, time to head to the hotel and conclude day 5 of our road trip. All right, so my grandpa got the brisket sandwich from Buc-ee's and he's eating it for the first time. So what are your general thoughts on the brisket sandwich?
It's good. I like it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They're well known for their brisket and their beef jerky and their beaver nuggets.
Yeah, no, it's a good sandwich. I like it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How would you rate it out of 10?
About an 8.
Yeah? You definitely get it again?
Yeah, I get it again. It's good. It's not bad. I might try something different tomorrow, though.
All right. And that's going to conclude day number 5 here on my grandpa and I's road trip here in the Southwest and Colorado. We will see you tomorrow for day number 6. All right, good morning, everyone. It is my grandpa and I's 6th day on our Southwest/Colorado road trip. And tell the people where we're going today.
We're going to Rocky Mountain National Park.
And where are we stopping first?
Buc-ee's.
Yep. We got to get some snacks and food for the day, since I'm sure we're not going to have too many options up there in the park, so.
I doubt it, so.
You ready to go inside?
Yeah, let's go.
My grandpa and I loved Buc-ee's so much the previous day, we just had to come back here the first thing the next morning before we headed up into Rocky Mountain National Park. My grandpa and I quickly made our way over to where they sell breakfast burritos, and my grandpa and I both got a breakfast burrito, and I also got a brisket taco for myself later in the day. It was pretty bittersweet saying goodbye to Buc-ee's for the last time here on this trip, as there's no Buc-ee's near California, so we definitely took in as much time as we could here before we headed up into Rocky Mountain National Park. After leaving Buc-ee's, we continued on Interstate 25 for a few miles until we got to the city of Loveland, where we got off on US Route 34, which we followed all the way through the city of Loveland until we got to the base of the Rocky Mountains there near Big Thompson Canyon. It took us roughly 15 minutes to drive through the city of Loveland there along US 34, and then we even passed by Lake Loveland there, which is a reservoir in the city of Loveland. Big Thompson Canyon is one of the most scenic drives here in Colorado, and it's also one of the most spectacular canyons found here in the Rocky Mountains. It took us roughly 1 hour to drive from Loveland to Estes Park as we mostly passed through Big Thompson Canyon as we ascended the Rocky Mountains. Estes Park basically serves as the gateway to Rocky Mountain National Park. Before heading into Rocky Mountain National Park, my grandpa and I spotted these elk here near McDonald's, and we just had to get out and check them out for ourselves from a safe distance, as they're pretty popular here in Estes Park and they're just known to walk into the streets here where everyone can see them. We just took our time there to soak in the views of the elk before we made our way up into Rocky Mountain National Park, hoping that we would see more in the park, but unfortunately we didn't. So we just really were happy to see these elk here in Estes Park. And we spent about a good 5 minutes here just taking in the views and just watching them do their thing. After leaving Estes Park, it was only about a 5 to 10 minute drive up US 34 as we headed into the Fall River entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park. There are 2 entrances to Rocky Mountain National Park on the east side along US routes 34 and 36 respectively. Unfortunately, they were doing some construction here near the Fall River entrance and we weren't able to get a picture or do a video to welcome you guys to Rocky Mountain National Park. So I'm just going to welcome you guys to beautiful Rocky Mountain National Park here in Colorado. It took us about 5 to 10 minutes to enter the park there, and luckily we didn't need a reservation because we got there before 9 a.m. and that is the key to getting into Rocky Mountain National Park without a reservation. US Route 34 is the main east to west highway that goes through Rocky Mountain National Park, and it is known as Trail Ridge Road. It wasn't too long before we started climbing up in elevation here until we got to our first overlook here along Trail Ridge Road along US Route 34. This particular overlook here overlooks Horseshoe Park as well as a few 13ers here on the east side of Rocky Mountain National Park. The meadow down below us is also one of the most popular grazing areas for wildlife on the east side of the park as well.
So my grandpa and I are here in Rocky Mountain National Park for the first time in more than 10 years, and our first time here during the fall actually, so does it feel good to be back?
Yeah, it's we come in the east entrance this time instead of the other entrance, so it'll be different going the other way.
Yeah, so the previous 2 times that we've been in Rocky Mountain National Park, we've always come in from the Grand Lake entrance on the west side, but we came in from the Fall River entrance on the east side this time. So got some pretty awesome views here, but I feel like they're going to get only better as we keep going up in elevation.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you ready to continue our journey up Trail Ridge Road?
Yeah, let's go.
After our first scenic pullout, we pulled up to the Deer Ridge Junction here at just under 9,000 feet above sea level, and this officially marks the eastern end of Trail Ridge Road and is also the western terminus of US Route 36 as it splits off from US 34 here as well. We then drove a few miles up Trail Ridge Road here to our next scenic pull-off here, which offered even better views as we were climbing up higher in elevation. At this particular elevation, we are in the montane zone, which sits below 9,000 feet here in Rocky Mountain National Park. Ponderosa pines are pretty common in this life zone, as well as junipers, Douglas fir, and lodgepole pine. And this zone is home to the largest diversity of both plant and animal life here in Rocky Mountain National Park. Abundant grasses, wildflowers, and berry-producing shrubs in this ecosystem provide food for mammals and birds. At this particular overlook, you get really great views looking out towards the east side of the park, and if you look off in the distance, you can even see Long's Peak, which is both the northernmost 14er in Colorado and is also the only 14er in Rocky Mountain National Park as well.
Pretty awesome views here as we keep going up in elevation, huh? Especially of Long's Peak right behind you there, which is the highest point in the park and the northernmost 14er in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado.
Yeah, this is a great view right here. There's about, I don't know, it looks like 6 or 7 mountains out here. They're marked on this plaque over here, so they're all 114er and the rest all 13ers and 12s, I guess.
All right, you ready to continue on?
Yeah, let's continue.
They have plenty of information plaques here talking about what you can see from this viewpoint, as well as the different life zones found here in Rocky Mountain National Park as well. Of course, if you look back in the opposite direction of where we just came from, you get really great views of some 13ers as well. And the lighting conditions were much better facing this direction versus facing to the east, unfortunately, because we were here pretty early in the morning. As my grandpa and I continued farther up Trail Ridge Road, we began to enter the sub-alpine zone here in Rocky Mountain National Park, which stretches from 9,000 to 11,500 feet in elevation. Here at this elevation, the weather becomes a lot more harsh and fewer plants and animals can survive at these higher elevations. It's also at this point where the road is closed in the wintertime between here and the Colorado River overlook due to the amount of snowfall and harsh weather conditions found here at this altitude. Our next stop along Trail Ridge Road was at the Rainbow Curve overlook at 10,829 feet above sea level. It is at this point that you are more than 2 miles above sea level, and exposed trees are blasted by wind, ice, and grit into gnarled forms and flag shapes where branches survive only on the downwind side. Below us lies Hidden Valley, which is isolated from Horseshoe Park by a high ridge. The views get even better the higher up in elevation we go here along Trail Ridge Road, and the views here are absolutely spectacular. Looking out towards the east here, you can see the road where we came up. We're just under 11,000 feet right here at the scenic overlook. And you can see where we came in, that entrance right over there. Then right over there is Fall River Road. Man, this national park is pretty awesome in terms of views and just experience, huh?
Yeah, it really is. It's just, it's weird. It's just mountains and valleys. You know, you got all these mountains out here all the way around, and then this deep valley right in between it. There's actually the roads down there where we came up.
Starting to feel lightheaded at this altitude? We're just about 11,000 feet.
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm fine.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll just continue up into the Alpine tundra, I guess.
Yeah, we're getting close, I guess.
Yeah, we're right near the tree line where we're standing right here, so.
Yeah.
After leaving the Rainbow Curve overlook, we continued to gain elevation until we came close to the Alpine Tundra Zone up here on Trail Ridge Road here in Rocky Mountain National Park, and I was amazed to still see some patches of snow here in early October. We officially passed a sign that let us know we are entering the Alpine Tundra, which is one of the harshest and fragile ecosystems found anywhere in the world. It is very important that you stay on the trails if you're walking up here in the Alpine Tundra, because if you step on any of the plants, it can take generations for the plants to return to their natural state. Life up here is very harsh, and the Alpine Tundra has a very short growing season and typically lasts anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks depending on the season. It is not uncommon for wind speeds to exceed 150 miles per hour, and ultraviolet radiation up here is twice that of what it is at sea level, and sunlight is 25% more intense at this altitude. Trail Ridge Road spends several miles up here in the Alpine Tundra and reaches a maximum elevation of 12,183 feet, which makes it the highest continuous paved road in North America. Trail Ridge Road began construction in 1926 and officially opened to traffic in 1932. In 1996, Trail Ridge Road was designated as an All-American Road, one of the most scenic and unique national scenic byways in the country, and Trail Ridge Road was also designated as a Colorado State Scenic Byway as well. For every 1,000 feet in elevation gained, the temperature drops 3 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's like you drive 600 miles north. Driving up here in the Alpine Tundra is what life is like above the Arctic Circle here in the world. After driving up here in the Alpine Tundra on Trail Ridge Road, we made our way back over to Forest Canyon Overlook. There are multiple signs here letting you know to please stay on the trail and leave no trace, as the Alpine Tundra here is very fragile and just stepping and walking on it can take generations for it to return to its natural state. There are plenty of information plaques here that talk about the Alpine Tundra and what life is like up here at this extreme altitude. And let me just say, it was very cold and windy when my grandpa and I were up here. I believe it was 42 degrees, but then you had the wind chill factor, which brought it back down to about 32 degrees. So if you come here in the fall like we did, be sure to dress warm. The Forest Canyon Overlook is your first overlook here in the Alpine tundra if you're coming from the east side of the park, and it sits 11,716 feet above sea level. Here at the Forest Canyon Overlook, the erosive forces of glacial ice is undeniable. Some of the very few glaciers found in Colorado can be found from looking at this overlook out in the distance, and it's not hard to see how glaciers carve out this amazing landscape in this area of Rocky Mountain National Park. Looking out towards the east, you can see the Alpine tundra dominating the landscape here, and you can see how Trail Ridge Road just meanders across the Alpine tundra there in the distance before reaching its apex there at 12,183 feet above sea level. And then of course, if you look out in the far distance, you get really amazing views of the Never Summer Mountains as well as the Gore Range. This is truly one of the most spectacular overlooks here in Rocky Mountain National Park, and I'm just glad that we were here on a crystal clear day and we didn't have any obstruction to our views. And then looking out towards the east, you get one good view of Long's Peak, which like I said is the tallest mountain in Rocky Mountain National Park at over 14,000 feet. Man, the views don't get much better than this, do they?
No, they just keep getting better and better the higher we go.
Yep, we're pretty high right now, aren't we?
Yeah, we're, what, over 11,000 feet, I guess.
About 11,716, the sign said at this overlook.
Yeah, it's pretty, we're getting there. We're almost up to the top there, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a valley right here that you see, I guess, that you look at down through here was probably formed by glaciers, more than likely.
Our next stop along Trail Ridge Road was at the Rock Cut, which is 12,110 feet above sea level and is very close to the high point of Trail Ridge Road. It should be noted that at this elevation you should stay hydrated, especially in the summertime, as the high altitude can dehydrate you, and it's also very important to walk at a pace that's comfortable for you, especially if you're not used to the altitude, as lightheadedness and dizziness could be pretty common side effects of altitude sickness. Our next stop along Trail Ridge Road is the Lava Cliffs, which is at 12,080 feet above sea level. Roughly 28 to 26 million years ago, volcanoes erupted repeatedly in the area of today's Never Summer Mountains, roughly 8 miles to the west, and they left deposits of ash and other volcanic material here on the landscape. Glacial ice later carved and exposed the remnants of this volcanic activity that we can see here at the lava cliffs. I'm sure volcanoes are probably not the first thing that you think of when you think of the Rocky Mountains, but it's just really cool to learn about these geologic oddities, especially in a place like this right here in Colorado, where volcanic activity is probably not the first thing on people's minds. And if you look out to the east here where the lava cliffs are, you can look out to where the Old Fall River Road is, which I hear is an amazing drive here in Rocky Mountain National Park. I personally have not done it, but I would absolutely love to do the Fall River Road at some point in the future. Our second to last stop here in the Alpine tundra was at the Gore Range overlook here, where you get amazing views of the Gore Range to the east and the Never Summer Mountains to the west. This is hands down my favorite overlook here in Rocky Mountain National Park, because you just get amazing unobstructed views for as far as the eye can see. Rocky Mountain National Park will always be one of my favorite national parks in the United States for views like this. I will never get tired of coming here and driving Trail Ridge Road just to get these amazing views, and it really just makes me appreciate the fact that I'm here with my grandpa, because we have not been to Rocky Mountain National Park since 2014 when we were on our big Midwest trip back then. Another nice thing about our visit to Rocky Mountain National Park here in October 2024 was the fact that it wasn't during the peak summer season when it was really busy, because this is also one of the busiest national parks in the US, and for good reason. The views of the Never Summer Mountains here at the Gore Range overlook are an incredible sight to see, and it's just really awesome how clear of a day it was when we were here in Rocky Mountain National Park. So this is easily my favorite view here along Trail Ridge Road, because you get views of the mountains to the west and east from here. You just really get all the open views, like at this viewpoint right here.
Yeah, this is a fantastic view right here. If you look straight out over here, all those peaks out there are all 12ers.
Yep. Well, you ready to start heading down Trail Ridge Road on the west side and cross the Continental Divide?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go check it out.
Don't you find it funny how the Continental Divide is not on the highest point of the road?
Yeah, that is very strange. Usually it is, right? It's at the highest elevation.
Not necessarily. It's just where the watershed divides between the Pacific and Atlantic.
Okay.
It's not always on the highest point when this is one of the cases where it isn't.
Okay.
All right, let's hit the road.
All right.
After leaving the Gore Range overlook, my grandpa and I began to descend down the Alpine tundra here as we made our way over to the Alpine Visitor Center, which sits at 11,796 feet above sea level and is easily my favorite visitor center here in Rocky Mountain National Park. My grandpa and I quickly made our way over to the entrance, and then we went inside the visitor center there, and it was just really nice to actually be inside of a building and away from the wind because it was a very beautiful day there, but it was also very windy, so it was just nice to be out of the elements for a few minutes. The Alpine Visitor Center here has a ton of information about the Alpine tundra and just a whole bunch of facts just about Rocky Mountain National Park itself and some of the wildlife and indigenous populations that used to inhabit this area as well. The Alpine Visitor Center is subject to extreme winds, especially during the winter. Heavy logs permanently attached to the roof support the structure and catch snow, which helps prevent shingles from being blown away in the winds. I can't imagine what life is like up here at this altitude during the winter time, so kudos to the people who monitor the weather up here at this altitude. My grandpa and I officially got our stamp book stamped here in Rocky Mountain National Park.
There you go, Rocky Mountain National Park. There's your stamp and your cancellation.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
Good. Another park.
They have a lot of great information here about the weather up here in the Alpine tundra, and you definitely don't want to be outside during a thunderstorm here because your risk of being struck by lightning is very high up here in the Alpine tundra. One thing I really like is that they have a weather station up here where you could just see like all of the different cool facts about like the pressure and everything like that that's going on up here. It's a really nice touch, and I actually really appreciate the effort that they put into it right there. After spending some time there at the visitor center, my grandpa and I made our way over to the gift shop where we just got some souvenirs to take back home with us to California from Rocky Mountain National Park. All right, so what did you think of the Alpine Visitor Center here in Rocky Mountain National Park?
It's nice. It's not real big, but there's a lot of good information in there about the
Alpine
whole
tundra,
area.
yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's really nice. It's worth a visit.
After spending a good 30 minutes there at the Alpine Visitor Center, we continued our journey down Trail Ridge Road and eventually made our way back below the timberline here at 11,500 feet as we began to descend down towards the Continental Divide, which interestingly is not on the highest point of Trail Ridge Road, but rather a lot lower in elevation that you might expect. The Continental Divide here along Trail Ridge Road is at Milner Pass, which sits 10,758 feet above sea level. It is at this point where water will eventually drain into the greater Colorado River watershed and eventually reach the Pacific Ocean. Milner Pass was named for T.J. Milner, an ambitious railroad promoter who surveyed a rail route from Fort Collins west across the Continental Divide. Like many surveyed routes of the 1880s, the railroad line was never built. Our final scenic overlook here along Trail Ridge Road was at the Far View Curve here at 10,120 feet above sea level. It's at this point that we are back in the subalpine zone, and this overlook here basically looks at the headwaters of the Colorado River, which flows over 1,400 miles from here to the Gulf of California or Sea of Cortez. The Colorado River is one of the most important rivers in the American West, and it's really cool to see that it has its headwaters here in the west side of Rocky Mountain National Park. Of course, you get amazing views of the Never Summer Mountains from this overlook as well, and it's crazy how much taller they are here from this overlook compared to where we were basically looking at them at the same elevations up there at the Gore Range overlook. And looking out towards this valley right here, you could see where the Colorado River begins to meander its way down and eventually reach the Pacific Ocean over 1,400 miles later. After leaving the far view curve overlook, we eventually kept lowering in elevation until we eventually made our way back towards the west entrance of Rocky Mountain National Park. As our time in Rocky Mountain National Park was coming to an end, we were a little bit sad, but we were very happy of the experiences that we got to share here in this beautiful park. As we approached the Grand Lake entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park, the scars left behind by the East Troublesome Fire were beginning to show their mark on the landscape. The East Troublesome Fire is the second largest wildfire in Colorado history and burned 193,812 acres and burned as much as 100,000 acres in a 24-hour period. It is by far the most destructive fire in Colorado's history. The fire started on October 14, 2020 and burned for 48 days and was fully extinguished on November 30th of 2020.
All right, so my grandpa and I just got done visiting Rocky Mountain National Park for the first time in 10 years. So what did you think?
Yeah, it's a still a beautiful park. It's a big park. A lot of mountains, beautiful mountains and valleys, and it was really nice. I really enjoyed it.
We followed most of US 40 across the northern half of Colorado, and we saw some amazing scenery along the western slope here that I've never seen before, and neither had my grandpa. One amazing drive that we did between Rocky Mountain National Park and Grand Junction was the drive over Rabbit Ears Pass near the town of Steamboat Springs. Rabbit Ears Pass is famous for having a rock formation that's known as the Rabbit Ears, which gives the pass its name on the east side of the pass. I thought it was very cool, and then of course the fall colors over Rabbit Ears Pass was just icing on the cake. It was really nice passing through the resort community of Steamboat Springs too, as it was one of the largest ski towns that I had yet to visit in Colorado during my many trips to this state over the years. The scenery after we left Steamboat Springs got pretty boring pretty fast, so we didn't really film anything at all between Steamboat Springs and Grand Junction, which is where we spent night 6 of our Colorado and Southwest road trip.
All right, good morning everybody. It is day 7 on my grandpa and I's road trip here in the Southwest. So we just left Colorado this morning and we're passing through Utah on our way to Las Vegas today. We won't be really stopping for that much, but we will be stopping at some scenic pullouts in Utah on I-70 because there's plenty of scenic pullouts on Utah on I-70 because it's very beautiful out here, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's pretty desolate, but it is still beautiful.
Yes, I-70 in Utah is one of the most desolate stretches of interstate in the U.S. In fact, it has the longest stretch without services between Green River and Salina at over 100 miles.
Yeah, so, yeah, it is. It's desolate but beautiful, like I said.
Yep, I'm sad that we're basically heading home these last 2 days, but, you know, the trip's not over yet, and there's still some stuff to see, so.
Yeah, there is. Welcome to Utah, the Beehive State.
So this right here is hands down my favorite welcome sign in the entire country. I think it is beautifully designed and it just really captures what Utah is all about right here in this sign.
Yeah, I agree. This is a picture of the Arches right here, I believe.
Yep, right nearby Arches National Park, which is not too far away from us.
Yeah.
But yes, this is much better than a welcome sign that we saw just about 30 minutes ago, but you know, like I said, this is my favorite one in the entire country, and I don't think it gets much better than this.
No, I agree.
After leaving behind the rest area, my grandpa and I continued west along Interstate 70 through the Colorado Plateau, and we eventually reached the San Rafael Reef, which is part of the Greater San Rafael Swell, and this is hands down the most scenic stretch of Interstate 70 in Utah. I-70 in Utah and Colorado is an amazing drive overall, but it's just stretches like this that really just add to the amazing beauty of this drive. You will not find a single bad mile of scenery on I-70 west of Denver, Colorado, all the way to its end at I-15 in the middle of nowhere in Utah. My grandpa and I decided to stop at many of the scenic pullouts here along I-70 in the San Rafael Swell, and let me tell you, we were definitely not disappointed, and it's not hard to see why this is one of the engineering marvels of the interstate highway system. Hands down, the most scenic stretch of I-70 through the San Rafael Swell is the section that passes through Spotted Wolf Canyon here in the San Rafael Reef. The San Rafael Reef forms the steep eastern edge of the San Rafael Swell anticline. The San Rafael Reef is made up of Navajo sandstone that reaches heights of over 200 feet in height. The The San Rafael Reef is also comprised of shale and limestone that was pushed up during the Paleocene period roughly 40 to 60 million years ago. Since that time, infrequent but powerful flash floods have eroded the sedimentary rocks into numerous valleys, canyons, gorges, mesas, buttes, and badlands. Alright, so my grandpa and I are here in Spotted Wolf Canyon, here along I-70 in Utah and the San Rafael Swell, and what a view this is right here, isn't it?
Yeah, this is quite a view here. It's amazing how they were able to build that interstate right through that area down there.
Yep, this is one of the engineering accomplishments of the interstate highway system. The canyon was so narrow down there that they could literally touch both canyon walls with both hands when they were constructing this interstate.
Yeah, it was quite a feat. They moved a lot of rock and dirt to get through here.
The construction of I-70 through the San Rafael Reef is one of legend. Here at Spotted Wolf Canyon, workers could stand and touch both walls of the canyon before construction began in 1967. Engineers and surveyors used body harnesses and ropes to work as high as 400 feet above the canyon floor, and the crews excavated 3.5 million cubic yards of rock from the area at the cost of $4.5 million for 8 miles of road. On November 5, 1970, the Utah Department of Transportation opened the 70-mile section from Fremont Junction to Green River for 2-lane traffic, and then 2 more lanes were added to the interstate during the mid-1980s, and that is how the interstate has looked ever since. Another amazing thing about the construction of Interstate 70 across the San Rafael Swell is that it was the largest single opening of an interstate segment at one time on the interstate highway system, and it also opened on a completely brand new alignment where no previous roads had previously went across the landscape. So this was really cool, and it's such an amazing story when it comes to the construction of I-70 through Utah. And I-70 just west of Denver in general is just an amazing engineering accomplishment here on our nation's interstate highway system. Alright, so my grandpa and I are now here at the bottom of the San Rafael Reef here on the east side, looking back west. This is totally a different perspective than where we were up there at the top of Spotted Wolf Canyon here.
Yeah, it is. It's even the colors are different down here. It's more on the brownish side than on the reddish side. I don't know why, but it just is.
This area is just really cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. This is a really neat area right here. I guess back in the day there was a lot of uranium mining going on here.
The scenery definitely changes quite a bit here as you continue your journey west along Interstate 70 and you climb up in elevation here in the San Rafael Swell. Canyons, buttes, mesas really start to take over the scenery here as you get off of all these scenic pullouts here along I-70. A lot of the construction crews, when they were building I-70 through this area during the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, believed that this area should be turned into a national park because of its very unique geography and amazing beauty. However, the National Park Service didn't like the idea of an interstate cutting through a National Park Service area, so the idea was eventually thrown out. Alright, so what do you think of this view right here?
Yeah, this just gives you another perspective of this area through the canyon here, whatever this is here, and all the colors up there on that ridge over there, so it's pretty cool.
After spending some time there at the San Rafael Reef, we continued west along Interstate 70 and eventually ended up at the Ghost Rock view area here along I-70 in the San Rafael Swell. This was the last scenic pullout that we stopped at here along our journey on I-70 in Utah. I really like the information plaques that they have at these various scenic pullouts here along I-70 in Utah that just gives a really deep history lesson of this area before a lot of people started coming out this way. This area back in the day really was no man's land, and this was actually one of the last areas of the United States to be mapped. You can just see how the difficult terrain out here would made it very impossible for people to travel out here before the 20th century. But man, the scenery out here is just absolutely amazing. Like, Utah seriously has some of the best scenery in the entire country. I would argue that the Colorado Plateau has the best geography in the entire United States. There's just something special about being out here and just seeing all of these different land formations coming together to form this awesome scenery that we see out here, and that we're fortunate enough to be seen right off a major highway like Interstate 70. Right out in the distance there, you can see Ghost Rock. which is what this viewpoint here along I-70 in Utah is named after. It definitely stands out compared to its surroundings, that is for sure. It's also very important to leave no trace. Unfortunately, some people have vandalized this scenic viewpoint here with some spray paint on the side of the rocks here. It's just really disappointing to see, honestly. As much as I would just love to spend more time here just taking in these amazing views here along I-70 in Utah, we did have to keep going along our journey here on I-70 in Utah, so I tried to keep a perfect balance here of just taking it all in and just capturing some of these awesome shots for you guys to see here.
The views just don't stop being awesome here in Utah, do they?
Well, they sure don't. It's another real beautiful area here with this canyon going down through here. There's supposed to be a rock out here called Ghost Rock.
Even though my grandpa and I's time on our road trip here was slowly coming to an end as we kept heading west back towards California, we just really appreciated these scenic pullouts here because it's probably going to be a long time before either of us see something like this again, so we were just taking it all in here. After leaving the Ghost Rock viewing area there along I-70, we just started heading west towards the eventual western end of I-70 without stopping for anything. It should be noted that this is the longest stretch on the interstate highway system without services. The stretch between Green River and Salina is approximately 104 miles without any services, so it's best to make sure that you have a full tank of gas when driving this stretch of I-70 because you never know what could happen. Cell phone service is also pretty limited, but man, it's really hard to be afraid to go out here in the middle of nowhere when you just have amazing scenery on both sides of the interstate here as you just pass through the San Rafael Swell, and then you eventually keep heading west, and then you end up on the Wasatch Plateau there, which basically acts as the transition between the Colorado River drainage basin and then the Great Basin farther west, which stretches all the way to the Sierra Nevada mountains of California. I truly believe that Utah is one of the most diverse states that we have, and it's just really cool to see all these different geographic areas converge in this one area in Utah here, where you have the Colorado Plateau and the Colorado River drainage basin. Then you have the Wasatch Plateau, which transitions you over to the Great Basin of Utah, which dominates the western half of the state, while of course Canyon Country here dominates the eastern half of Utah. Each of it has its perks, but I mean, you really can't just beat this Canyon Country here in the Four Corners region and the Colorado Plateau. And that's not to take anything away from the Great Basin region, which has its own unique geography and perks, but man, I-70 in Utah, you just really get a full course of what the entire state of Utah is all about in just a 231-mile drive. After crossing the amazingly beautiful San Rafael Swell and then ascending the Wasatch Plateau, and then of course descending the Wasatch Plateau through the beautiful Salina Canyon, we eventually ended up in the town of Salina, Utah, which is where all of the services that you could need along I-70 are found there. They have a number of truck stops and traveler services that you would need after the long journey across the desolate areas of Utah. After passing through the Sevier Valley, I-70 then ascends the Pavant Range there as it passes through the Fremont Indian State Park, and then crosses the Pavant Range there as it makes its way over to Interstate 15, where it ends there at Cove Fort, Utah. Unfortunately, my camera's memory card got full right about 5 miles from the western terminus of I-70 there in Utah, and I was unable to record I-70 all the way to the end. It was really heartbreaking, but I knew that I was going to run out of memory on my memory card because we weren't able to transfer anything onto our computer here, and I didn't want to delete any footage and risk losing it for this trip. But I was just really happy to eventually get down to Las Vegas and take care of some business there and get some new computers, and then just transferring everything over to make sure that I didn't lose any of this footage. So I guess it's better that I saved all of the footage from the previous 3 days than rather just try to delete some footage and try to capture those last 5 miles there of I-70 in Utah. So I hope you guys understand, and I'm really sorry about all this, but sometimes things happen and it's not under your control. But I'm just happy that we were able to resolve these issues when we got to Las Vegas later in the day.
All right, so my grandpa and I just got done driving I-70 in Utah. What did you think of the entire drive?
I really liked the drive. It was beautiful. It's a beautiful drive through that whole country there.
Yep. And now we're just on our way to Las Vegas for the evening, so we're not really going to be filming too much on our way down there just because we've already pretty much filmed it. And there's not really much to see. Well, there is, but at the same time, we just need to get down there to take care of some business. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Alright everyone, so on the last day of our road trip, we basically drove from Las Vegas back to Northern California. We didn't really stop for anything because it was about an 8-hour drive, and it was really uneventful for the most part, as we basically drove on Interstate 15 down to Barstow and then cut back over to the Central Valley along California State Route 58. This road trip was the longest trip my grandpa and I have been on in several years, and we absolutely enjoyed the time we had on the road together. It was really awesome showing my grandpa some places that he's never seen before in his life, and it was just really awesome getting to drive and see some places that were on my bucket list for quite a while, such as the $1 Million Highway and Monument Valley. It was also really nice being able to revisit some places that we haven't seen in a long time, such as Loveland Pass and Rocky Mountain National Park. As previously mentioned in the video, Colorado is easily my favorite state to travel to because I just absolutely love the Rocky Mountains and the scenery there. As much as I love traveling, I just absolutely love traveling with my grandpa because we just create so many memories that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. I'm just really thankful that he can go along with me on some of these trips, and he's honestly just as big of an inspiration as anybody for me to keep making these types of videos because he's always been my #1 supporter. I'm not sure where the road is going to take us next, but one thing is for sure is that wherever we end up, we're going to have the best time together on the road, and we can't wait to bring you along with us. And with all that said, folks, I really hope you all enjoyed watching this video here. We had a great time on the road, traveling through the Four Corners region of the United States and seeing some awesome scenery there in the Colorado Rocky Mountains. We hope you all enjoyed riding along with us. We hope you all have an amazing day, and take care, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned to the next adventure. We will see you next time.